Okay, so now we're going to just shift a little bit. Instead of focusing on the ministry, we have an interesting talk that's going to look at something maybe we didn't even know about. But Brother Ben Burnett is going to help us with this theme, a spectacular discovery that testifies to the historicity of the Bible. Thanks, Brother Ben.
Most of us have heard of the Dead Sea Scrolls. They are a collection of manuscripts that were found relatively intact, and they were discovered in the 1940s and 50s in around 11 or 12 different caves in the Judean desert, which is about just over a kilometre away from the Dead Sea. There's an example of what they look like. And these manuscripts, there was over 900 of them found. They contained vast amounts of biblical references and citations from the Hebrew Scriptures. And this was actually a very exciting time for Christians because it gave further supportive proof of the Bible's authenticity. These manuscripts were still in very good condition. There's a wee example of sort of how they looked. And scholars dated those documents to around 300 BCE. And at the time, they were the oldest supporting citations of the Hebrew Scriptures. Now, if we fast forward to 1979, just 42 years ago, just outside of the city of Jerusalem, or the old city, you can see here's the temple at the top here, and here's the main bulk of the city surrounded by the walls. And then down about 20 minutes walk from the temple, there's the Valley of Hinnom. And on a slope down to the southwest, they discovered a burial chamber down here. And it was a 15-year-old, actually, who was part of the dig crew. He discovered two little small amulets inside that burial chamber. Now, I've got a picture here of these scrolls, and when I was preparing this, I was imagining some sort of spectacular silver scrolls that were elegant and so well preserved, but they really don't look that well preserved. They sort of look like scraps of rubbish. There's a picture of them. Now, bear in mind, even though you can see the inscriptions on them, these are actually only 10 centimetres or smaller. So not very big. But with the right people that were analysing them, they found that they did hold something very precious indeed. And just on the topic of analysis, they had to devise a whole new system of unrolling these pure silver amulets that took up to 3 years for them to be able to do that without damaging them and to preserve them. So that would have taken a lot of patience on the part of the archaeologists, that's for sure. Well, now let's take our Bibles and let's have a look at Numbers chapter 6, and we'll start with verse 24 to 26. And I want you to imagine the excitement of finally deciphering these words that I'm about to read, and then discovering that they actually match perfectly with what was written in the Bible, and that through careful analysis, many different types of analysis that I won't go into tonight, but the general consensus was that this thing they've found is not only as old as the Dead Sea Scrolls, but actually precedes them by around 300 to 400 years, which would put it to the time before the Babylonians destroyed Jerusalem. So about 600 BCE, or thereabouts. So they became now the world's oldest known citations of the Hebrew Scriptures. So let's have a look at that verse in verse 24 of chapter 6. Have you got your magnifying glass? scrape the dirt off. Let's have a read what it says there. May Jehovah bless you and safeguard you. May Jehovah make his face shine upon you, and may he favor you. May Jehovah lift up his face towards you and grant you peace. And interesting to note that Jehovah's name was used in those inscriptions way back then, so why shouldn't we use it now? So this is a good reminder for all of us to take opportunities like this to do extra research, because they only help to further strengthen our faith, and that the words that we're reading today on our phones, on our tablets, even in this book here, they're not just words. They're actually very old, ancient, sacred texts that have survived for thousands of years. Like in this case here, 2,700 years have been tucked away in there. So we want to treat those words with real reverence as the inspired word of God Almighty.
Thank you, Brother Ben. I really enjoyed your presentation. I felt like I was being educated by a biblical professor there, because you really helped us with those illustrations, that little bit you had on the board, as well as helping us see the fragments, etc., that you held up. I'm sure everyone really understood the material, and you helped us see too the importance of finding things like this, because it does give us faith in what Jehovah has recorded for us. But this point of practical value made clear in study 13, you really nailed that, because you helped us clearly see why we needed to hear this information, and just that your whole presentation really helped us understand clearly what happened and how we can benefit ourselves by even researching things like this for ourselves. So we're grateful for your effort in preparation tonight.